Hello everybody, David here and welcome. Here we discuss real stories by real people. I hope all of you are doing well and fine today. We're going to dive right into this. This is actually the continuation of the previous two stories updated. My sister kicked me out of parents' house. So I stopped the house mortgage. Now they're on the streets, original post. I'm a 33-year-old female and single mom of a 5-year-old daughter. I've been separated from my husband since after delivery because he cheated on me during my pregnancy and the postpartum period. That's another story, which I'll share in a later post. So I kicked him out of my life and moved in with my parents 2 days back. I came home from work to find my younger sister, Eva, a 29-year-old female sitting with her heavily pregnant belly. She had moved to Croatia with her husband after their marriage. I was happy because she had been nothing but evil to me. She never liked me. And there was no particular reason for her hatred. She considered herself superior to me and would manipulate our parents against me. Being the younger one, she would get away with her nuisance. Though she's younger than me. She is big and strong while I'm petite and lean. If she grabbed my wrist, there was no way that I could free myself. Anyone who could see us could tell that I could never fight her physically. Yet my parents never believed me when I complained that she had beaten me. They would say, "She's your small sister." Oh my gosh. How could she beat you? So I remained distant from her, and even avoided talking to her, unless it was absolutely necessary. Luckily, I got the chance to move out for high school, and it was such a relief. Now that monster is back in my life. Seeing her pregnant, I thought she was here for her postpartum period. I asked Mom how long she was going to stay. Ava heard me and shouted right from the living room. "I'm here to stay. Do you have a problem with that?" God, she hasn't changed a bit. She's still her narcissistic self. Mom told me that Ava's husband got a transfer back to the States. He has accommodation from the company, but since Ava is pregnant, they think living with her parents is best for her. They can take care of her during pregnancy and after childbirth. I asked Mom if she had time to take care of her child. She meekly replied, "Yeah, I have to. Ava is still so young. How could she raise her child alone? She needs help." Good grief. She's 29 years old. I was lost for words. Really? Ava is 29 and she can't raise her child on her own. I was 27 when I delivered my baby. I handled my postpartum alone because my husband was busy cheating on me. My mom also didn't come to help me. She said that I should learn to raise a child. It's all part of motherhood. Now, when her golden child is pregnant, she's ready to become a nanny for her. Such a hypocrite. Lots of toxicity there. Their favoritism has always been evident, and that's the reason I've always kept my silence. When I got separated from my husband, I rented a house and didn't come to live with my parents. The dad insisted I live with them. He said their house is too big just for the two of them. And besides, they would be there to watch over my daughter when I go out for work. Instead of paying rent for a separate house, I could live with them and pay rent to them. Seemed like a fair deal to me. Moreover, I was going through a lot of emotional turmoil to think straight. Pregnancy, postpartum, my husband's adultery, and the divorce. So when my dad offered support, I rushed to grab it. I moved in with them. I didn't face any significant problems living with them. Just that the support he promised to watch over my daughter faltered. It was only a few times that Mom agreed to babysit my daughter. I had to call a nanny most of the time. She said that she couldn't babysit full-time. So I should hire a nanny while she could keep an eye on whether the nanny was doing her job properly. She wanted to take control and take the role of baby monitor. I thought it was better to have Mom around than leave my daughter alone with a stranger. So I had a full-time nanny as well. So it's disheartening to see how Mom is circling around my sister, providing her with food, meds, and supplements. She never did that for me during my 9 months of pregnancy. She barely visited me 2 or 3 times and only once after my delivery. Ever since I learned that Ava is going to stay here, I have an eerie feeling that they're up to something. I mean, how could they agree to let Ava move in permanently? We don't have that big of a house to accommodate them. I'm happy to move out, but my daughter is too small to be left alone without any supervision. Though my mom doesn't babysit her exclusively, I feel safer having her around. If I move out, I'd always have to have a babysitter at home, and I don't know how safe it is to leave a kid with a babysitter. I know I'm a clingy mom, but hey, I'm a single mother. The only hope in my life is that my daughter, and I know that I tend to be overprotective about her, but what should I do? She's my life and my lifeline. Now for the updates. Update 1. Thanks for all the advice. It helped me calm down my nerves. My most dreadful thought came true 2 days after my post. I came back from work to find my stuff being packed and kept on the front porch and my daughter sitting by it. I asked her who did this, and she said that Aunt Ava had packed everything and made her sit there. My daughter is a quiet and well-mannered child. Poor girl had been sitting there for hours waiting for me. I asked where Grandma and Grandpa were. She didn't say anything. She just hugged me and said that she had been waiting for me to come back because she is so horrified of Aunt Ava. Asked her if Ava harmed or scolded her. She sobbed and said that Aunt Ava was yelling something that she didn't understand and that the way that she was thrashing all my belongings made my daughter feel threatened. I stormed inside, yelling at Ava for an explanation. She said, "Do you want to mess with a pregnant woman? I can call the cops on you for harassing me." You know, I can do it, don't you? I gave back saying that I can also call the cops on her for harassing my daughter in my absence. She laughed and said, "Do you have any evidence? Mom was here when I packed your stuff." You know whose side Mom is going to take, don't you? With that statement, I understood it was futile to talk to her. I called out to Mom, but there was no response from her. She was home, but had locked her room. Ava's evil laugh made it clear that they had all ganged up against me. And Ava smirked in my helplessness and said, "Take a hint, you dumbass. No one wants you here. We packed for you and made it easier for you. Can't you see I'm pregnant and I need space? Me and my child are going to stay here. Get your lazy butt moving. Oh my goodness. Be done with those people." I said, "I'm not going anywhere and I'm not living here for free. Like you, I pay rent." Before I could say more, she charged at me the way that she used to as a child. "You pay rent? Do you have a receipt or a lease paper?" "No, that's right. How long are you going to be a bum and suck on my parents' money? I'm such a loser. That's why your husband found peace in another woman's bed, because you're useless. Disappear now if you don't want to get punched in front of your daughter." My gosh. My daughter ran towards me and hugged me. She was petrified with all the shouting and chaos. So I loaded my car with my belongings and left with my daughter. There was nothing left to be discussed with. My parents were spineless in front of her. She wasn't lying when she said that Mom was there when she packed. In fact, Mom and Dad would have helped her pack my stuff. She's 7 months pregnant, and there's no way that she would have been able to lift or drag my wardrobe and heavy suitcases without their help. They are all in this together. Her husband has a decent job, and they can easily afford to have their separate house. So she came behind me and chased me out. She's adamant to make my life miserable. She let her husband live alone at his company's flat while she's here busy troubling me. I don't know what wrong I did to her that she treats me this way. And even my parents did not speak a word against her. I checked into a hotel for a week and searched for a place to live. It was very difficult to manage work and house hunting. Finding a house in a week's time is so impossible. One of my colleagues was looking for a flatmate. I requested her to let me in. No one wants a flatmate with a baby, but I assured her that my daughter won't disturb her and I would move out as soon as I find a place. She was kind to let me in. I've been living with her for 2 weeks now. I have found a place within my means and within the circumference of my workplace, and for my daughter's daycare, by the existing tenant, which would take another month to vacate. I've made the bookings already, just waiting for it to get vacated. It's almost 3 weeks since I moved out, or rather got kicked out of my house. My daughter still trembles with fear that Aunt Ava would come hunting for us and harm us. My poor little girl is not able to describe what exactly Ava had done to her, but she sobs when Aunt was just yelling at her and staring at her with wide eyes and threatening to hit her if she cried. She still sobs and wets her bed, fearing Ava. I don't know how I can make her forget that incident. I feel so helpless seeing her get sad, remembering about that day. I still can't fathom how unsafe my daughter would have felt that day. She was traumatized in my absence. She's about to be a mother, yet she has no empathy for a child. I'm never going to forgive her. And if I get the opportunity to take my revenge, I'm going to crush her. Update 2. So I was looking for an opportunity and I got one. Like I mentioned, I was paying rent for living at my parents' house over the last year. Dad asked me to pay $5,000 extra on top of the rent, which he would return to me later. I agreed to help him out. I didn't know he was using my rent money and that extra $5,000 to pay the mortgage. Now that I'd moved out, I didn't pay the rent and that extra amount. Dad called me up on the 10th of this month in panic mode. Why have you not transferred the money this month? I got the message from the bank that the auto debit had failed due to insufficient balance. It made me crack up. He was so sure that I would pay the rent after moving out that he didn't even check his account balance and keep the emergency funds. I said, "Hello, I no longer live at your house. Your golden child kicked me out, remember? So why should I pay rent?" He remained silent for a moment and said, "How am I going to pay the mortgage? I don't make enough money now. The sales at my store have dwindled. Whatever little I make, I use that to run the house errands. I was using the rent money and that extra $5,000 to pay the mortgage." I said, "That's not my problem. I don't owe you anything. I paid for my stay and bought my own food. Ask your narcissistic daughter to help you out. I'm sure she would." I hung up the call. Within an hour, I got a call from my mom. She said, "Your dad is struggling to pay the mortgage. And instead of helping him, you're hanging up on him. How did you forget how we stood by you when your loser husband left you? This is how you pay us back. Swallow your shallow pride and transfer the money you've been sending every month." I replied, "Do you even hear yourself? You let me live in your house because I paid rent and you used that for a mortgage. I hired a babysitter whenever I needed a helping hand. You didn't pitch in? What kind of support are you talking about?" She realized that I was not going to stand and take it as I used to as a child. Now I know how to give back. She mellowed down. She was like, "Babe, Ava is pregnant. She needs more space. That's why she requested you to temporarily move out. Nothing to get bitter about." I said, "Excuse me. She didn't request me. She threw me out while you chose to shut your eyes and mouth. She tortured my daughter and I can never forgive you for all that." She further tried to defend her entitled daughter by saying she's a little immature. You shouldn't mind her words. You're the older one and wiser. You'd be the bigger person and forgive her and send us the money. Ha, it's all about the money. I chuckled and said, "I'm no longer the weak doormat that we all could push over. You guys always forced her over me. And by letting her harass my daughter, you all have crossed all the limits of sanity. I never wanted to stay with you all, but still stayed because I feared leaving my daughter alone to a nanny. But now my daughter feels threatened more by you guys than a stranger." She started sobbing and apologizing, and I cut her off and said, "I'm done being manipulated by crocodile tears. I'm not going to give a penny," and they stopped bothering me. They didn't call me after that. It's been a month since then. I think they are managing the mortgage on their own, or their golden daughter is helping them through it. I don't care what's happening in their lives. I'm happy in my small co-home with my daughter. I've hired a nanny who looks after her after play school. The nanny is a middle-aged woman who has a son 5 years older than my daughter. She brings her son along to play with my daughter. They have a good time together. It feels so blissful to come home to a happy and loving daughter. Life does get better. We just need to hang in there. Update 3. Hello. First of all, thanks for all the love and support. It means a lot to me. And second, sorry for not updating this thread often. 2 reasons for this. 1. I had no relevant update to post. I cut off all ties with my parents and narcissistic sister. 2. I was too busy with life. I got promoted this year. Yay. But it comes with extra responsibility, of course, extra pay too. So I got caught up with work and motherly duties, but I got an interesting update this time. Last week, Mom and Dad showed up at my work. They didn't know where I live, so they showed up at my workplace. I told the security to ask them to leave because I was too busy to meet anyone. I could see from the window blinds that they were arguing with the security and not ready to leave. They looked fragile, and it seemed like they had aged by at least 10 years in just a year. Mom was carrying an infant in her arms. I guess it was Ava's child. It got me curious and I went out to meet them. They started sobbing on seeing me. They came to me as their last hope to save the house. Dad said that he could not pay the house mortgage for the last 7 to 8 months, whatever savings he had. He used to pay for the initial 2 to 3 months after I left the bank, gave them enough time to pay the money, that they keep defaulting last month. The bank kicked them out of the house and has put up the house for sale. They've been living in a dingy apartment ever since they came to me to help them save their house. I listened to them patiently and asked them why their entitled daughter didn't help them. They lowered their faces and said that her husband had kicked her out of the house because he found her cheating on him, and even the baby was not his. All the transfer stories and the company's accommodation were a lie. Her husband is still in Croatia and a divorce is on the way. I was shocked to hear this. I said, even after this, you guys supported her. Mom cried and said, we didn't know about this. She didn't tell us. She said that she was here for the delivery, but after you moved out and we asked her to help us with the mortgage, the truth came out. I was like, what did you do after knowing the truth? Hugged her and cried, and you clearly supported her. That's why you're holding her child in your arms. They were like, how could we leave her in that condition? She had nowhere to go. We dried up all of her savings to help pay for her medical bills. Their condition indeed seemed very pathetic. I remained silent, thinking what to do without thinking anything. I asked, where was Ava at work? Mom was murmuring something, but Dad gave her a look and said, she's at home. She refuses to go to work. Mom interrupted him and said, how could she leave such a small baby and go to work? I laughed and said, really, Mom, you're still supporting her. Her baby must be 7 to 8 months old. Women all over the world go back to work, leaving their 6-month-old babies at home, and Ava is no different. Given the condition she is in, she should have taken a job much earlier. They further pleaded with me for help. I said, I didn't have that much money to save their house. Dad said that if I could pay for the default of months, he could request the manager to stop the sale of the house, and we could continue the remaining payments in monthly EMIs. I said, I don't have that much money. I've used up my savings to pay the deposit on a house lease and for the admission of my daughter into elementary school. My mom made faces at my answer. I said, Mom, instead of making faces, try and understand that I'm a single mom taking care of myself and my daughter all by myself. After they left, it was feeling very low. My manager asked me about it. She saw me missing at my desk for over an hour. I discussed the matter with her and she gave me an idea. I called up my dad and said I was ready to pay the piled-up mortgage and also the remaining ones. But they need to transfer the house to my name. My manager suggested that I buy the house with my promotion and raise. I should be able to afford the mortgage since I've already helped them with the mortgage for so many years, and now helping them save the house. It should be a fair deal for them. In return, I would let them live in the house, but without their low-life daughter. Dad remained silent and said that he would like to discuss that with Mom and let me know. I said, "Take your time. Not sure if you guys have enough." It's been a week since then, but they have not called me. It is an answer that they don't agree with my proposal. They're okay with seeing their house getting sold off and living in a shady apartment, but not letting go of their golden child and living comfortably. Good for them. They made their choices and now they'll have to live by it. Today, while driving back from work, I thought of driving by my parents' house to see if the sale board was up, but I brushed off the thought I decided to cut them off from my life a year ago, and would continue to do so. I don't want them back in my life. I'm happy and content living with my daughter and seeing her grow and achieve her milestones. She's now in elementary school and I couldn't be more proud. Story 2, the a-hole for not helping my daughter save her house. A few years ago, my husband and I were proud to co-sign for our daughter, 27 female, to help her buy her first house. We were happy to help, and despite not having a lot of money ourselves, we bought her a washer and dryer for her new home. I called to check in with her regularly and see how things were going and if she needed anything. I know she changed jobs mid-year and I want to make sure that she'd still be okay financially. She assured me that she was good and everything was fine. We started noticing inconsistencies around Christmas when our credit score took a hit due to 2 late payments on the house. Our daughter told us it was a mix-up with the bank since a new bank took over the mortgage and she would sort it out. A few months later, it still has not been corrected. So I called her daughter again. Something seemed off. So I called the bank since my name was on the loan, and found out that my daughter was 6 months behind on the mortgage. When confronted, she said that the new job wasn't working out. So she quit back in December and hadn't been able to find a new job. I thought this was strange since we taught her not to quit a job until you have a new one in place and to be responsible. I also asked her why she hadn't come to us, and she said that she was embarrassed. We gave her some leads on new jobs because we couldn't afford to pay the full amount that she owed on the house at this point, and suggested she get a roommate, and if she couldn't get those things done, then we would have to see what we could do. It was a couple of months before she found a job. I don't think she even looked into the leads we gave her, but still had no roommate to help pay for the bills. At this point, we found out from her grandfather that she had taken a large sum of money from him during that first year, over $20,000, and had just asked him for more, but he said he was sorry and he didn't have more to give. We still have no idea what she did with any of the money. And she never told us about this. Our daughter continued lying to us about paying bills and has done nothing to help herself to save her home. The mortgage company said that they'd send her documents for a hardship extension, which she never returned. We finally made the decision to not take money out of her retirement, which was her only option since her credit scores were now in the toilet because of this. And we can't get a loan to save the house. This was not an easy decision to make, but we made it mostly because she had not tried to help herself at all and had lied to us over and over again for more than a year. We told her that she could come stay with us until she could get back on her feet. She not only declined, but stopped talking to us not long afterwards. This was not an easy decision, but if we had saved her house, we likely would have lost her own. Are we the a-holes? Not at all. That's all for today. If you're enjoying this story, please like the video and share your thoughts in the comments section down below. Thank you.